The title of our study is A Phenomenological Study of Bahalana Mindset and its Effect on the Academic Performance of the Second-Year Medical Field Students of Far Eastern University in Manila. The researchers responsible for the study are Kurilin, Jalandoni, Nario, Santiago, Taduran, Balasote, and Yonzon. So now, this will be the flow or contents of our research. First is we have the introduction or the background of the study. Second is the key literature related to the study. Third is a problem statement or research questions. And lastly is the methodology. Going forward, let's proceed to the background of the study or introduction. So let me introduce what Bahalana is. Bahalana is actually an expression of attitude that are commonly used among Filipinos in which they are confronted in problem situation where they'll just say or think whatever will be, will be. Our main objectives for this research is that we aim to identify how common the Bahalana kind of mindset occurs among the second-year students in Far Eastern University, Manila, studying in the medical field, specifically biopsychology and medical technology, to see whether the impact of this mindset will affect their capabilities as professionals in the future. The researchers were motivated to do this research because this is a common problem among Filipinos, especially students. How much more to medical students who have a demanding nature that requires a good context wherein the Bahalana attitude can be studied and evaluated. The issue of this problem is that if this kind of mindset becomes a habit, they tend to get more lazy whenever they know the task given to them is far from the deadline. Students would get used to rushing their task and no longer care about the quality of their outputs. Students with this kind of mindset will surely bring it to their future work, thus would undoubtedly affect their work in a negative way. According to Rolando Grijaldo's philosophical analysis of Bahalana, he defined that this became a cultural trait of Filipino. The phrase is commonly used as a response to uncertain situations. He also believed that only a higher state of mind will be able to manage it. However, according to Manlimus, Bahalana does not directly mean Bahalana. It is more of a phrase, come what may. He also suggested that Bahalana should be an expression of something desirable and trustworthy. Also a positive side of Bahalana, in which he said or defined our hope, self-efficacy, optimism, courage, and search for the sacred. He also stated that it can be either positive, negative, or neutral, depending on the individual situation. Moving on, Mikhail Tan described Bahalana as a holy spirit or the final declaration, in which he believed that if a person has done everything he could or she could have done, his only left is with the belief that he or she will be provided with guidance from a higher being. Contrary with Manlimus' beliefs, Brostrom, however, believed that it is a negative response or negative effect because it is an inaction as a response to a stressful decision-making process. More like a resignation or effort withdrawal. to Timothy Church, he argued that there are pieces of evidence for both conducive and destructive effects of Bahala. It is identified as optimistic fatalism, wherein it is a coping mechanism that enabling the individual to surrender control, despite the evident possibility of failure. In contrast, Kasuga mentioned that Filipino psychology theorists prove that Bahalana does not involve passivity that is mentioned in earlier concept. Rather, it attains an assertive response to extremely stressful events. Moreover, they argue that the conducive conceptualization of Bahalana is evident in the overall conceptualization of Filipino personality norms, which includes Bahala na with several other adapted and confrontational values displayed by Filipinos. In conclusion, the mentioned studies prove that the Bahala na trait is considered as a coping mechanism for Filipinos in stressful times caused by decision making. For the next part is we have the problem statement and research questions. The problem of this research is that the students never seem to lose the tendency to get lazy or procrastinate instead of working on the task within the given amount of time and cram the task at the last few minutes before the deadline. Students can get away with such an act every once in a while. It is what the researcher would call the Bahalana mindset. A mindset in a student makes it a habit of rushing his or her outputs and eventually no longer caring about the quality. So for the research question, first is we asked to describe the definition of the Bahalana mindset. Second is we asked to describe the common traits of medical students with a Bahalana mindset. Third is we ask the negative and positive influence of Bahalana mindset in the respondents' academic performance. And lastly, is we asked about the occurrences of Bahalana mindset among medical students in accomplishing the tasks. Moving on to the methodology. So for the research design, the researchers conducted an online open survey questionnaire. Having an online survey as a research design is more flexible and results are easier to analyze. The researchers will use a phenomenological approach in conducting the study given that it aims to identify and evaluate the effects of the Bahalana mindset on the academic performance of medical students. For the respondents, we chose 10 second-year students from BS Psychology and 10 second-year students from BS in Medical Technology. We chose this medical field because the students are deemed to be the most suitable respondents to provide the researchers with the information needed since both programs are significantly related and aligned to the medical sciences. For the research instrument, the researchers will be conducting an online survey with the use of open questionnaires. Since the study is a phenomenon, the researchers will not be using questionnaires based on previous studies or sources. To the data gathering procedure, the researchers will conduct surveys to a totality of 20 second-year students of Far Eastern University. We will ask for the participants' permission to be part of the study during their available time. So, the research survey consists of 5 parts. Part 1 of the research instrument gathers respondents' profiles such as their name, sex, and course. Part 2 of Part 1 of the research instrument asks the negative and positive influence of Bahalana mindset in the respondents' academic performance. Part 2 asks to describe the definition of Bahala mindset. Part 3 asks to describe the common traits of medical students with a Bahala mindset. And lastly, Part 4 asks about the occurrences of Bahala mindset among medical students in accomplishing the tasks. This will help the researchers determine how many students have the same reasoning as to why they have such a mindset. It will help us to identify the main reason or cause of the occurrence of such a mindset. For the data analysis, once the data has been collected, the answers will then be analyzed by the researcher themselves. The number of respondents who answered strongly agree, neutral, disagree, or strongly disagree will be counted. And the most answers will lead the researchers to a conclusion. By this method, the researchers will be able to conclude whether or not the mindset is very common, somewhat uncommon, or not common at all.